Black Wall Street. Do it right, build wealth, live life, economic empowerment, real tips, insight on the new Black Wall Street. It's on the new Black Wall Street. Here's your host. The new Black.
Grand rising to you, billionaires. Thanks so much for joining us here today on the new Black Wall Street as we present you guys the Money and Power Show. I'm your host, ERGJ, your certified financial educator, CEO of ERGJ Enterprises, ERGJ Black Bazaar, and international best-selling author of the book, The Black Billionaires Club. The book that I wrote is The Study of Black Wealth. It's a study of the 12 richest Black people in the world today and how they built their wealth. And I just truly believe that if you want to be wealthy, that's a big if, by the way, but if you do, I recommend that you study wealthy people. Well, you can find that book by simply going to the website www.theblackbillionairesclub.com, www.theblackbillionairesclub.com. Pick up your copy today. Well, Grand Rising to you. Hopefully everybody's doing well. You are in good health and good spirits. Love to know where you're connecting from. So while you are here joining us with us today, we'll be covering the third section or third part to our Contract with Black America, the document created by Ice Cube and his team. Go ahead and let us know where you're connecting from, what city, what state, what country, what city, what state, what country. And also hit the like button and share button if you care. This is something that is for us, that's made by us, and I think it's important that we go through it. When we finish this session, going through this contract, we'll look at the Lift Every Voice plan, which was coming from the Democratic Harris and Biden party. And then we'll also look at the Platinum Plan, which is coming from the Trump party. So we're going to dive into politics a little bit over these next few days or the next week or so. So, as those that may not have already made a decision or already voted before you get to these next 14 days, you can be armed with information. And I think that's what's important. And also what's important is us holding them to what they say that they will do. And that's the biggest piece. We are heavily involved with, it seems, with getting someone into office, but then we go back to life and forget that there was something to come with our vote as we move forward. Good morning to you, Mari. Thanks so much for joining us here today. Also, again, let us know where you're connected from. We're going to start, though, our show with our daily motivation, which is coming from our brother, Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. Help get our mind right as we face and tackle today, these next 24 hours to do and accomplish all that we can to get closer to where we want to be. Today's title is The Today Show. The Today Show. And our quote today comes from a Bryant Gumbel. Bryant Gumbel, who was the morning news host, who says this: you never know which key unlocks the safe. You never know which key unlocks the safe. And I tell you, I found this to be so very true that, as I have progressed forward in life, I never know which key is going to unlock that door opportunity, that safe that has the treasure that lead to that new client or that new product. But it tends to come. Luck tends to follow those who are seeking opportunity. And here's our passage today. It says this: success can be achieved only by those willing to persevere beyond the point which the majority stop and turn back. Few of us realize how long it takes in the early days to succeed in an extraordinary way. There are difficult steps to be taken. The story is told of a scuba diver and fortune hunter who spent 14 years searching for a sunken ship, Spanish galleon, off the Florida Keys. Each day, the crew kept looking for this elusive ship. Many wondered if they would ever find it or if the ship was even there. The captain of the expedition had a motto that kept the crew inspired. Today is the day. Everybody put in the comments below, today is the day. Today is the day. He had T-shirts and signs printed bearing that maximum. Then one day, today was the day. The crew found the sunken treasure, turning each crew member into a millionaire in the process. Anita Baker, the talented female vocalist, was turned down by numerous record companies and reduced to tears before she signed on with Elektra Records. but today is her day. Film producer Matty Rich made more than 100 presentations to potential investors before he secured the funding to produce his first movie, Straight Outta Brooklyn. But today is the day. And dancer and choreographer Judith Jamison began her quest for the bright lights when she was 6. Many days she danced on aching legs and bleeding feet, but today is her day. Today she is labeled America's premier dancer. Today is your day. Today is the day that you take another step closer to your goal. Often it is just a single step that makes the difference. Often it is a single step that makes the difference. And here is our affirmation of the day. Here's something that you can take away from today, and you can repeat over and over again to help you to capture, to seize the day, to carpe diem. Repeat after me. Today and every day, I will continue to step towards my goal. Today and every day, I will continue to step towards my goal. Today and every day. Now, of course, that bodes, that breeds the idea that we must have something that you want to step towards in order to keep stepping towards it. But today is your day. So shout out to Dr. Dennis Kimbrough again, Daily Motivations for African American Success, starting our morning off right, getting our mind right, and understanding that each and every day, each and every moment, we take steps closer to our goal. Now, what I want to do is I want to take a quick look at the markets here. This is a Wealth Wednesday, so I'll pull it up and see if we can see anything going on. Of course, I will say, I don't want to do that right now. I will say that it's been very, very interesting as far as, very, very interesting as far as what we can expect. Moving forward as we get closer to this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen for you guys, and then we'll get into this contract with Black America. News you can use as far as the market's concerned. Where we are right now is really uncertainty. What's happening now is that there are earnings that are being coming out for companies. I think Netflix reported yesterday they missed their earnings beat. Snapchat reported yesterday they beat. Really, there's not going to be. I don't believe there's going to be a whole lot of movement until the president is, until we know who's going to be getting into office or staying in office in the next 2 weeks. So we're really kind of on a watch for that. But I would say I'm just not just watching the election, but I'm actually watching. I'm putting companies on my list to watch for whether it's going to be Biden and a Democrat, or whether it's going to be Trump, or whether it's going to be an independent, which is highly unlikely. But those decisions that we make as a country impact where policy will go. And policy impacts who gets the money. And who gets the money really impacts who flourishes, or which industries flourish as we kind of move forward in life. So it's if you are an investor, or you consider becoming an investor in these wonderful, great companies that provide services and products to our communities, then politics and policy plays a big role in that. I did see yesterday that again, we see here that Snapchat stock soars 20%, strong user growth. Netflix shares fall. I just mentioned that. Amazon is doing some interesting things as well. They are, providing Prime. They have their Prime membership services, and they're now providing, I want to say, curbside pickup at their Whole Food stores everywhere. 1 hour curbside pickup. Some of the amusement parks or theme parks are starting to reopen, slightly, but not Disneyland and not another company as well. So there is some reopening going on in some places. But we still are on high alert as we are still dealing with not only just COVID-19 and that portion, but also the flu season is here. So again, guys, you want to be build your immune system. Do what you can to prevent. It's preventative maintenance at this point. Look at this. It says the pandemic is speeding up automation. 85 million jobs are on the line. So these are things that are kind of taking place. This is like the economic impact for the times that we are in, along with the election that's coming up. and then also what we see with our healthcare. So healthcare is going to be a big thing. I don't think no matter who goes in office or who will be in office, healthcare should be a pretty big, pretty important industry. Okay. So again, guys, I want to continue along today with our contract for Black America. Good morning to you, Curtis Payne. How you doing, man? Payne Technology. What's going on, Miss Vivian, Miss Yvette? How are you? Thanks so much for joining. And so we have been, kind of going through this contract. And what I found is that the first day we did it, I was trying to kind of go through the Cliff Notes. And that's not really working, right? Because there's more details inside of this contract with Black America. Now, this is a document that was created by Ice Cube, and for many of us, we have heard the rhetoric that's going out with Ice Cube and what he's doing and who he's partnered with. And I encourage you guys to listen to Ice Cube. Go to the horse's mouth. He's done plenty of interviews to kind of show what his position is and whether you agree with it or not. But I also believe that if this is something that is created for Black America, that Black America should know what the details of what's inside of this document. And you know what they say? You say we just simply don't read. My sound is out. I don't think my sound is out. I think my sound is pretty good. Sean, it might be just you. Is anybody? I believe people can hear me. I'm not quite sure. But I don't think that I'm on mute or anything like that. Oh, you are blessed. So somebody is replying. So I think I'm pretty good. So yesterday, we'll kind of go through this and we'll feature where we've been and then talk about where we're going with this contract. So we're going to continue to kind of go through this, guys. So we know what's in this and we can get behind portions of whatever it is that we want to get behind. So let me start here. So there are 13 different pieces of this document, right? Representation, lending reform, federal funding, Federal Reserve, finance oversight, data and credit, prison reform, judicial reform, police reform act, FCC licensing, Confederate institutions, AJP program, and Black responsibility. And I believe today we are in the section where we're going to be talking about these reforms. So we left off yesterday with the lending reform. So we're getting into judicial and public policy reform. And let me make sure that this is big enough that you guys can at least see most of it, if not all of it, on screen. So let me blow this up just a little bit. Oh, it is blown up as much as I can. So judicial and policy reform, which is again coming out of the contract for Black America by Q. It says to recognize racism as a public health crisis that mandates a federal response, ban all private-run prisons, fines established to be paid by companies that profited off of the private prison system. So going after the going after the private prison system. Sean says, I will not listen to Ice Cube's ultra conservative Uncle Tom ignorance and stupidity. Hey, there's what I've learned is that there's some people we'll listen to, some people we won't. He's come out with something. He's created something that's for Black America. So if you won't listen to a Black man that's trying to do something for Black America, then who will you listen to? I think a better stance would be, well, let me see what he has to say. But we all take our stances, guys. We all say, hey, if we don't like a person or we have some type. I've learned not to kill the messenger. That's what I've learned, right? Because if we won't listen, then how in the world can we find some type of how can we find solutions when we won't even choose to listen? I mean, that's just like saying, well, I won't even listen to Trump. Well, what if he's got a solution, but we won't listen to him, and therefore we'll never see if he has something for somebody. But that's the stances that we all take. We're all going to have our own spaces where we will be. And like I said, if this is a document that's for Black America, I'm going to go through it. Whether you listen or not, there may be points within it that you agree with, points that you don't. I don't know. But how will you know if you won't read or you won't listen or you won't tune in? That's a personal choice. But it says prison labor not allowed without consent. Prisoners to be compensated at a minimum wage and hazardous pay provided for applicable duties, and declare the Ku Klux Klan a terrorist organization. So it seems like here there's basically in this portion of the judicial reform, he's really they are, and it's not just him. He has a team with them. They're targeting the prison to pipeline complex. A lot of profit being made from the private prison system, which 51%. I think they said 51% of the prisons are populated by Black folk or something like that. I think I heard the other day. I was listening to Dr. Claude Anderson talk about the state of the prison system. Profiting with forcing people to go into labor, to work doing those in the prison system. And if there's anybody that's ever been in prison, then you would be able to or if you work with prisoners, you will have a better standpoint on some of the stuff that takes place in these prisons across America. But to declare the Ku Klux Klan a terrorist organization, that's within this document or this contract that they want to discuss, have a conversation with, and implement some of these points. And I like that in this contract that they're covering a wide variety, a broad scope of items that impact us here in America. Let's keep going. Lynching to become a federal hate crime with a recommended federal sentence of life. And can you believe it, guys, that here in 2021 or 2020, there's still lynching that's taking place. Like, that is still something that happens. What's going on, Samuel? How you doing, man? Thanks so much for joining. What's up with you? Free Richmond, Virginia. What's up, man? Free nonviolent offenders incarcerated for 10 years or longer who have less than 5 verifiable write-ups. Write-ups can be challenged and given due process. So nonviolent offenders that have been in jail for longer than 10 years, to free these people if they have been on good behavior, right? Let's more freedom, less slavery, right? Free all prisoners for marijuana possession. That's something I highly agree with. If we are creating a space for marijuana to be distributed legally, then those that are incarcerated because of illegal distribution of marijuana should then be subject to these new laws that are taking place. I agree with that. Eliminate laws establishing mandatory minimums. Eliminate the 3 strikes law. First offense for illegal drug use or possession to require government payment for entry into an approved drug rehabilitation program rather than imprisonment. So some alternatives to our judicial system. Minimums and this 3 strikes law. I did not even know the 3 strikes law still exists. I mean, that's back in the Clinton days, and that's still around today. This is crazy. Once a prisoner completes a sentence, voting rights should be restored. If a prisoner, pays their dues, should they not be able to vote? See, some of these laws that we have in this land are so archaic, and they were created such a long time ago that and like I said, I was listening to Dr. Claude Anderson yesterday, and I was agreeing with him, like, it's time for an overhaul on some of these statutes that we have in place, and I believe that this is kind of where we're going with this contract, to overhaul, to look at in depth and the impact that some of these old laws are having in a new day. Personal data. Most states publicly release bulk data about arrestees unchecked. Like the 1970 Fair Credit Reporting Act regarding credit data, there must be guidelines that allow similar privacy and accuracy protections and are a right to dispute and correct inaccurate data. So as they put out information about arrestees, they're saying, hey, there should be some checks and balances here that allows an individual to dispute what's on their record. That makes sense to me. The Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice reform through stricter guidelines, so the Department of Justice oversight of police departments and other government institutions becomes more than a rubber stamp. Department of Justice can be sued for non-compliance so that standards do not vary depending on administration. Currently, the Black population is overrepresented in the military as 17% of soldiers are Black. The percentage of Black enlistee soldiers is even higher. To compensate for this disproportionate contribution to our national defense, 5% of the Defense Department budget will be allocated towards beautification, education, and youth programs in predominantly Black neighborhoods. Such programs will build goodwill towards the country, resulting in greater patriotism, more successful recruitment efforts, and a generally more enthusiastic military population. This is interesting. So we go back to that number that we talked about yesterday, 13.4%, and they're saying, hey, this is interesting. We had 13.4% of the population is Black, but yet 17% of the soldiers are Black. So that's an overrepresentation based upon the population. And so in such, we want for a percentage of the Defense Department budget to go towards Black neighborhoods. This is that's reasonable based upon based upon representation of who's fighting for our our military, who's enlisted to help protect our land. Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. EPA. I don't know what EPA stands for. To inspect water. Okay, environmental protection, something like that. To inspect water supplies in all communities nationwide for lead and other forms of contaminants. Fixing polluted water systems to deliver clean water will take priority in any future infrastructure spending bill. Now, this obviously is targeting, is coming from obviously the Flint, Michigan issue with the water, the lead water there. And so, there's a piece of this in this contract with Black America because that affected a predominantly Black area where Black folk live. And so polluted water systems and the clean water takes priority in any future infrastructure spending bill. Technology action plan. It provides for computers and broadband in poor communities. Work with technology companies to set up high security 24-hour computer lab learning centers in the heart of technology deserts. And so here we see personal data within this reform, the Department of Justice oversight, so kind of like some police reform, a shot at the military and seeing what we can do there, and the defense budget being allocations coming to the Black community. Cleanliness, obviously, with our water, and then this technology action plan. And so I want us to understand that within this document or this contract, everything won't be, everything will not be signed off on, and everything won't be something that is worked on. But I think what I like about it being so broad is we can go from broad to specific. Based upon what's the most important things, but to be able to kind of cast a brush and say, man, here are some of these in these areas. Here are things that we really see as a problem. And once you can identify the problems, then you can come back and say, okay, well, here are some solutions. Here are some solutions that we can work on. And so what I believe that iCube is doing, he's saying, man, I want to have these open discussions to start coming up with solution-based plans that we can work on. But he's not going to be able to work on them by himself. And so I believe you do need people in power. You do need people that can stroke a pen. You do need some, not necessarily alliances, but you got to say, man, just like with any organization, that may be a nonprofit that's being funded by the government to go out and handle some problems that are going on in the community. I believe same thing here. There's some funding that can go place. There's some laws that can be passed. There's some bills that can be written to go towards, solving some of these issues. Now, here's a question for you guys. And, as we're reading through this, we're going through this. Do you see some of these things as issues? Because if you're Black in America, again, are you agreeing with some of these things, saying, man, yeah, this is an issue? And if so, are you willing to say, well, let me champion, something that's trying to tackle these issues that I see. Now, if you don't see them as issues, then of course, you won't support it, right? But if you see some of it as issues, even if not all of it, then you can kind of get behind and say, okay, well, I want to follow this thing and kind of see where we go from here. Because again, this is not something that's just for now. It's something that he's really targeting towards 2021. and the first 100 days, really saying, okay, now that you're in office, or now that you have, reestablished yourself as the power piece in our country, now we want, this is something, to me, what this is, this contract is to hold whoever is in office accountable. Say, man, here's some things that we've identified, and we have it documented, and we have presented it, and now you are in office, and now that you have positioned yourself to whoever it is to lead this country, and you have, on the Biden side, you have the Lift Every Voice Black plan for Black America. On the Trump side, you have the Platinum plan for Black America. Well, we don't want these things to just fall by the wayside now that the election season is over. And this is what happens every 4 years, right? Every 4 years, right? And even probably every 2 years, there's pandering that takes place to say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But then there's nothing to hold them accountable to say, okay, now that you have gotten what you want, now we need to make sure that we hold you accountable to getting what we want. And I think that's the piece that's been missing. Like, what do we have to for us that can say, okay, well, here, what are we working on within this document? What are we working on? What has been done? And it's something that we can say, man, when we get to 2024, over the past 4 years, here are some of the things that we identified. In 4 years of whoever is in office, right? Here, out of the things we've identified, here's what's been done. And if we get in and say, oh, nothing's been done, then what do we do there? So what's going on, Brother Dan? You said, man, in your opinion, is Ice Cube really someone that you think can spearhead change through this document? Well, so my answer would be yes, right? When you say spearhead change, and the reason why I say yes, because we're talking about it, right? If we're talking about it now, if I'm doing this show now, if he's been on the news because of this document, which him and his team created, then can he spearhead change? Yes. It starts with people being aware of it and discussing it and seeing and going through it to see if there's things that they agree with or not, and then seeing who gets behind it. So just by creating a document and it getting some buzz, it definitely can spearhead change. Will it change? We don't know. But do I think that? Let me put it this way. Do I think that IQ will be on the head of all of these different boards to make this thing happen? No. But the mere fact that we're even having this conversation, the mere fact that this document even exists, the mere fact that we can kind of go through it and see if it's something we can get behind, it tells me that there's obviously that our awareness is heightened, that there may be people that are connected to him in some type of way that, he begins to form these alliances as well. But without this document, and without someone, regardless of who it is, obviously he's a person of influence. He does have a position in our society. I very well, I don't think it's going to be a politician that will spearhead change. It normally isn't, right? It normally isn't a politician that really spearheads change for the social construct of Black people in America. That's not really where it's normally something on the outside because they're not enticed by whoever got them into office. So I very well think that that he could be that guy. I mean, we've had a couple people who've tried to use their voice and use their influence. But if it's going to bring more and more people to read through this document, more and more people to say, okay, here's some things that I identify with, and then those people become woke in the sense that they're saying, okay, now we're going to get behind this and this and that, because there's some things in this document that people simply didn't even know, right? Didn't even know. I mean, I wouldn't have known that we're 17% or we're overrepresented in the military. I probably wouldn't have known that we're only 13.4% of the population. So I do think that he could be someone that could spearhead change through this document. Will this document be the only thing? No. Is it a start? Yes. Is it now with all of the publicity or with the rhetoric that's going on in media, right, is bringing something to the forefront that we can get behind. It's just a matter of will we read it and will we see if it's something that we can get behind? Because at the end of the day, it's going to require many Black Americans saying something that was made for us and by us, if it's something that we support. And if we as Black Americans don't read it and understand it in order to support it, then of course it won't get any steam. It'll just fall by the wayside, just like everything else. At the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, what I find is there's a real lack of political education in America, and specifically in Black America. People. Here's the thing. I was talking about this yesterday. How there's a big push, right? Even now they're saying, hey, just go vote, just go vote, just go vote. Go vote, go vote, go vote, right? Which is great. But if you go to the poll and you have no idea who these people are that's on the ballot, you're still going to vote in ignorance. And we're saying that's okay. It's like, hey, well, at least you did your civil duty and you actually participate in this process. But if we're acting out of ignorance, how's that any better than someone who doesn't do anything? Because you simply are not we simply are not educated in the space. So it's great that they push voting, but they still are not pushing voter education. They're still not pushing, like, even like this right now. I feel like this is late, right? We're going through this contract now. It's October 21st. But what if this was what if we were going through this 6 months ago, or I don't even know when it was. I think it was created in September when George Floyd passed away, and we were like going through this thing to see a part of this. What are we really going through the Platinum Plan as a group of people to say, okay, well, is this something we can get behind? What if we were really going through the Biden plan, which we're going to go through over the next couple of weeks, next couple of days? But what we were doing that earlier to say, are these political pieces or points that we can really get behind, right? But we're pushing action without education, right? That's just, acting out of ignorance doesn't help anybody, other than whoever it is that has appeased you the most with their appearance or with their dialogue. What's going on, man? I think that our dialogue is necessary, but until we, as a people, force government to change through our voter involvement, we will not see change. And again, I agree with this, right? Voter involvement again, but without education, without looking at these different pieces of this puzzle, right? We're pushing vote again, but how effective is that without pushing understanding what you're voting for, who you're voting for, why you're voting, these pieces that make a difference. I was having a conversation yesterday, and I was like, and I'm learning stuff every day as well, learning about these different positions and why they're important and what they do for the community and all that stuff. And I'm blown away, like, man, all of these years of my life, I have not, this political piece is not something that I've ever been, I really have ever been educated about. I'm just now beginning to learn in these latter stages of my, the middle stage of my life. And there's people that are older than me that still don't know, but yet, we rely on this. I don't know what we rely on. So I'm just going to do my part to try to bring some of this information to us that's available, to have these conversations, to find some spaces where we can agree, and then to try to put some things into place to further move the needle. So let's keep going, guys. Constitutional amendment codifying expansion of the 13th Amendment by the courts. Amendment. This is an amendment, so this would be something that's added to the 13th Amendment, and it will abolish slavery in any form, including as a punishment for crime as allowed by the 13th Amendment for prison inmates. Further, it will declare unconstitutional any government-run system, including justice, policing, education, health, and welfare, that does not provide services on an equal basis to all citizens and communities. If provided public services fail to meet minimum standards, they will be considered on their face unconstitutional unless proven special circumstances. Reverses being burden of proof to those in non-compliance to the civil rights lawyers having to prove systems are racist. While courts have expanded the interpretation of the 13th Amendment to provide some of these rights, this amendment will eliminate any uncertainty. So they're saying that, hey, these expansions to the 13th Amendment is a little unclear. We want to add another piece to it to remove any uncertainty as it relates to the 13th Amendment. And this is part of what's in this contract with Black America. Now, what I've also found is that in some of these points that are within this document, it's not all just Black America. Let's just be honest. Some of this stuff is including everybody and it seems like trying to put all of us within this equal frame when it's talking, because the amendment is for every citizen or everyone that's in the United States. And so I do find that some of these things are some of these points are indirectly targeting, the benefit to Black folks, just like we see with some of these indirect terms that they're using with people of color and diversity and things like that. So what we're going to continue to kind of flow through this thing, guys. We're going to get into police reform. I know that's going to be a big thing for many of us. Police reform is coming up next. We will tackle this right after the break.
Oh, yeah.
All right, welcome back, guys. We are, again, Money and Power. So this is a show we discuss money, which would be economics, also power, which is politics, and also your own individual power. We do have daily motivation, and we talk about money. We talk about these things that are kind of important. And so, again, you guys want to check out ERGJ Black Bazaar, our sponsor for today. You can support Black, buy Black by shopping Black at ERGJ Black Bazaar. Simply go to the website, www.theblackbazaar.com, www.theblackbazaar.com. Show your support today. Now, we are continuing along, going through this contract, Black America, which was, again, created, by Ice Cube and his team. And I want to know your thoughts, thus far as we have captured, I guess it was judicial and I think political reform, something like that. What are your thoughts so far? I mean, are there some things that, what have you found to be something that you really, you're saying, what you want to get behind? Has there been points within this thing? I think it's important for us to understand that this is a very broad document, and it's covering a lot of different spaces in a broad way. Some of it solution based, some of it things they want to target, things to target as it relates to elimination or increasing or something like that. But it's kind of like I would say it's kind of like a draft, not a draft, but here's some areas that we've identified. Here's some specifics within these areas that we've identified that we want to then get with those that are in power, those that can make change, and talk about what can we do in these areas to actually get some of the things that we want. As a Black American, if you are Black in America, and I think it's important that you kind of go through this document to see if there are things that you agree with, that you want. And here's the reality: many of us, when it comes to policy, we don't know what we want because we don't know what's available. We don't know, this is not for many of us. This is not something that we study on a regular basis. We're impacted by it, but we're not necessarily in the know. So, and I don't know of too many organizations that are helping us be in the know, other than when it benefits them. And this is what we see on and on again. So again, I appreciate the efforts to bring I think awareness is so important. And then from awareness, you begin to, if you want to learn about it, you learn about it. For many that we don't want to learn about it, we know what we know, and we've learned what we learned, and we go from there. But we can always be learning. So I'm super excited to continue to learn about these things that I have not found of interest in my life, but I'm finding it to be more interesting as I age. So the next section, guys, is police reform. This is, I think this will be very, very interesting to many of us. What's being said and what wants to be done as it relates to the reform of police. So qualified immunity will be eliminated. Legislation to reverse Supreme Court case Plumhoff versus Ricard 572 U.S. 765 2014, in which immunity was upheld. Before legislation is passed, the Democratic Party should oppose qualified immunity when the official party platform is drafted in August. This will pressure mayors to instruct city attorneys not to assert qualified immunity as an affirmative defense. Police lawyers can still argue why they should not be charged because they acted in good faith, but the presumption must be reversed. So this qualified immunity is a presumptive stance that if a police officer did something like killed someone, that it is presumed that they acted out of good faith. And this is a piece that this contract is saying we want eliminated out from legislation, right? That is presumed, because you got that, and I would tend to agree. I think that although yes, it's great you swore oath and you're a police officer now. At the end of the day, I think you should be from a court standpoint, you should be tried just like me, right? If I kill someone, I'm not presumed to have done it out of good faith because of the position that I held. I should be tried just like I believe a police officer should be tried just like anybody else. Mandatory malpractice insurance to be carried by police officers like lawyers and doctors do. This is interesting. Mandatory malpractice insurance. This protects victims' ability to collect on bona fide claims, insurance to be paid by the police departments. As a result, an officer who creates too many legal actions will be dropped because of financial pressure by rising insurance rates rather than requiring another officer to cross the blue line. Insurance companies will also demand de-escalation training to lower rates. This is interesting. This is an interesting concept. If we think of insurance and say, if there's too many strikes on this in this particular department, then insurance rates go up. It's going to cost you more because there's too many foul things coming out of your jurisdiction or out of your position, like lawyers and doctors. This is interesting concept. We guys think about mandatory malpractice insurance for police officers. That's a novel idea. That's very interesting. Well, good morning to you, Miss Jennifer. How are you? Mandatory malpractice insurance by police officers. That's a novel idea. Municipalities liable for officers' unconstitutional actions overturned with legislation Monell versus Department of Social Services Supreme Court case 436 U.S. 658, 1978, that protected municipalities from unconstitutional actions by the police. So we have another piece of legislation that protects municipalities from the actions of their workers. This will add skin in the game for cities which will have the most direct power to reform policing. Federal laws regarding police misconduct to change standard from willfulness to recklessness. While recklessness still poses a high bar to identify and prosecute police misconduct, it will make it more possible. So federal laws regarding police misconduct to change standard from willfulness to recklessness. Okay. Police unions can be held liable to sue for shielding bad cops, suppressing evidence and testimony to that effect, and for knowing and reckless disregard of material evidence that an officer is unfit mentally for the job. So, going after police unions, which protect these so-called bad cops, quote unquote bad cops, because they protect all cops. A union is going to protect a cop whether they are good or bad, because they are part of the union, which is an organization for the cops. Makes sense. Mandatory dashboard and body cams in the event they are turned off, which we've seen, right? and the incident results in a serious injury or death to any suspect or witness, it will be considered a felony, punishable by prison unless proof of malfunction. If there is a claim of excessive force or abuse and the cams are off, the first incident will result in a warning. The second will be a suspension. The third will require firing. So this is this is what I'm saying. So stuff like this is inside of this contract, and this is very reasonable stuff. I mean, how often have we've had situations happen? We got police cams and body cams and all that stuff, and now it's off, and we getting it seems to be deliberate. That we'll only capture what we want to capture because we know how to turn these things on and off, but there is no accountability to where's the footage. So good stuff, and this is almost like instant replay, guys. I mean, you know what I'm saying? If you can see it all, right, then it wouldn't. But thank God for cameras all over the place. But any place, cam footage, body and dashboard should be released within a week for incidents resulting in death, serious injuries, or that give rise to charges of excessive force. So there's a lot in this police reform. They're really going after elimination of no-knock warrants. They are unnecessary. Police can secure the scene. Mandatory name tags and affiliation requirements applies to all police and law enforcement authorities at the local, state, and federal level, with non-compliance resulting in disciplinary action. Undercover assignments not requiring compliance must be approved by court. Chokeholds illegal nationwide. This will apply to a maneuver resembling a chokehold or designed to cut off airways to affect breathing. Whistleblower protection expanded within the active police force or for those enrolled in the police academy. Discouraging officers under 5 years on the job to report bad behavior will be grounds for dismissal. It will be a criminal offense to reveal the identity of a whistleblower. Tampering with evidence results in an automatic dismissal from force. Crime to intentionally withhold exculpatory evidence by police or prosecutors. Let's keep going. What are you guys thinking so far of this? Of these points that we want, that this contract or this document wants to tackle as it relates to police reform? Newly discovered DNA evidence must be immediately considered to reverse wrongful convictions. Not to do so is a crime and applies to police, judges, and prosecutors. Failure to act will come under the Office of Independent Prosecutors discussed below. Federal database open to public scrutiny containing all complaints, both internal from the public and related to disciplinary action. Automatic federal Department of Justice review for any police officer exceeding a predetermined amount of complaints. Once fired for cause, you cannot be rehired. A police officer fired for the use of excessive force, violent, or inappropriate actions direct to a citizen, non-use of body cams, or any felony that are not allowed to be hired in any other jurisdiction. Create the creation of Office of Independent Prosecutors. These prosecutors will solely focus on prosecuting police accused of wrongdoing. This will eliminate the conflict of interest of DAs who must charge police, although they have an inherent and unwaverable conflict as they require police testimony to charge other criminals. Attorney generals and district attorneys can no longer accept contributions or endorsements from law enforcement bodies, especially police unions. The loss of pensions if convicted of a felony or greater while on the job. Really a real focus on police reform. Let's keep going. Let's see if you got to make sure I'm not missing nothing in the comments as well. All right, fantastic. Let's keep going. This is all within this contract of Black community. Again, guys, some stuff you agree with, some stuff you don't. But how will you know if you don't even know what's in the document? Budget reallocation. In what has been referred to as the funding to police, 20% of 2020 budgets, then going forward adjusted to inflation to be dedicated to improving conditions in the lower class and Black neighborhoods. 20% of all police department budget increases will allow flow to the community organization tasked with spending such funds. I don't understand. So budget reallocation. 20% of 2020 budget then going forward adjusted to inflation to be dedicated to improving conditions in the lower class. Okay, so it looks like they're saying, hey, you know, defunding the police can turn into part of the budget being dedicated to improving conditions in the lower class and Black neighborhoods. All right. Residency requirements. 90% of police must, listen to this, must live within 25 miles of the jurisdiction they work in. 65% must live within the jurisdiction itself. Police forces should demographically reflect the communities they serve. In the case of partners, at least one lives within the jurisdiction. Look at this. So now it's like, okay, well, you serve here, you live where you serve. That's interesting. Or at least a high percentage of those who serve in this area live in this area. That, I mean, to me, that makes sense. To me, that makes it like you are, well, that, which could be difficult as well, right? Because if it's a super I guess high rate crime area, this could be daunting, right? Because let's just say, because this is a toss here, because if I want to raise my family in the best of neighborhoods, although I don't necessarily mind serving in the worst of neighborhoods. This right here require me to live and my family live where I serve, which could be the worst of neighborhoods. This probably won't fly. I mean, this could be very difficult to get beyond, because then you're going to have a situation where you don't have nobody trying to serve certain areas because they don't want to live in certain areas. So this is interesting, but I don't think this will fly. I don't think this could fly. But it sounds good. This sounds good. Mandating a certain number of police department paid hours of community service for all street police in the communities they police. A community policing, non-armed personnel set up to handle most cases. These include taking reports for crimes already committed, non-active situations, filing of complaints, non-violent crimes of disputes between neighbors. So having a situation of community police where you have non-armed personnel set up to handle most cases. I wonder how this would fly. Are these non-armed personnel being paid? Are these just, your George Zimmermans of the world? Like this, I don't know about this. I mean, we should be able to set up community policing on our own, not necessarily have, I believe that's why you have like neighborhood watch and all that stuff. It's kind of what that is, but I don't know about taking reports for crimes and all that stuff. That just seems that now you're talking about a job. So I guess you're talking about creating new jobs within a job that we already have. Will we have enough? And who's to say that something that is non-violent won't turn into violence? You're not armed, but you're going to go and get a report, but then there's somebody there that's armed and they go crazy. So I don't know about this one. Anyway, remove permanent placement of police officers from all grade, middle, and high schools. Well, look at this. What do you guys think about this? If we were to remove officers from all of our elementary, middle, and high schools, what do you guys think about this? This is interesting. Remove permanent placing of police officers. So I guess you could remove police officers but still have security guards, right? What do you guys think about this? Removing all permanent placement police officers from all grade school, middle school, or high school. What role do they? I mean, I'm alarmed, I would say, and bothered when I do go to schools and I see a high amount of police officers. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen, what do you call it? When they do a little drug sweep, they bring the dogs in to start sniffing all the lockers. And I don't know if that happens in other neighborhoods. I'm in a black neighborhood. I see it happen quite often. Some officers there standing guard, fully equipped, and that is along with the security guards. A high amount of security, that our children, are forced to become comfortable with. This is interesting. I think you force you to become enforcement officers. So domestic abuse, create domestic abuse services analogous to child protective services. Personnel trained to deal with domestic abuse will be sent on such calls like CPS cases. A domestic abuse service member can ask for police backup if they feel the situation is dangerous and warranted. De-escalation police training. I like this. So this is require training and de-escalation techniques similar to Daytona police training based on Scotland police procedures and showing cases of police abuse and what is non-acceptable during training. Currently, most academies only show footage of cop killings and train police in aggressive techniques. A popular saying among police is, "I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6." Continuation of training. Training to be updated every 3 years in use of excessive force and dealing with mentally or disabled ill people. Such training will include racial sensitivity training and update police on new laws locally and federally. Any police officer who discharges his weapon 5 or more times on the job must go back to police academy for retraining and take mandatory courses on anger management. This threshold of weapon use can be increased or decreased depending upon jurisdictional averages. The intention is to identify and retrain outliers, as most police officers rarely use their guns more than once, if at all. And we got more and more. Let's try to get through this stuff. Civil rights history to be taught the first month in police academy or other training. These classes should include history of black codes and Jim Crow laws. Reason for contact. Upon initial contact of any kind with a citizen, officers must state reason for contact when the individual is first approached. I like that. Why are you touching me? Why are you trying to put, what is going on? What did I do? Right? No jury to speak. Police not allowed to escalate a situation merely because a person refuses to talk to police or answer questions without an attorney. Misstating the law by police to suspects not allowed to elicit testimony. Knowingly threatening people with greater charges than the situation dictates gives rise to disciplinary action. When defining knowingly, the standard applied will be what a reasonable police officer should have known. Reduce contact during traffic ticketing. Officer must immediately tell the driver why he or she was pulled over. Cannot search a vehicle without an independent warrant. No need for those cited to sign tickets. Efforts made to reduce time and contact between officer and driver, which benefits both. Digitally limiting contact as technology allows. Well, look at that. Tickets issued and sent by mail where possible. If the officer believes the driver is driving recklessly or suspicion of a DUI, they may pull over the car, but pullovers can be challenged by dash cam footage. If the footage does not show cause for concern, the officer can be disciplined. Look at this. Again, and all of this stuff is, all of these points are points to attack, points that are being, this team sees as a problem and wants to highlight. These are all highlights. This is not all something that's being done, but it's something that say, hey, do we want to do something about it? Let's discuss it. Stealing. Police officers caught stealing from a person's house or vehicle will be charged with double the penalty of a non-officer who would be charged for the same crime. Military-grade weapons will be brandished in public unless gunfire or deadly force required. Will not be brandished in public unless gunfire or deadly force required. Eliminate civil and criminal asset forfeiture, as it gives police departments economic incentive to charge crimes which conflicts with the goals of serving justice. Only exception is if the assets are related to the crime. It will be illegal for a police officer to have sex with a detainee or suspect under their charge. It will be considered statutory rape because it's unreasonable to assume consensual sex due to the power dynamic. Shoot to wound policy in event of unarmed suspect, fleeing suspect, or if a deadly force is unnecessary, and in all quota-based policing. This right here has got to stop. Quota-based policing, in all of it. All quota-based policing. And so this is all within, and obviously we have a lot of points in police reform from this document. And again, it's something for us to continue to kind of go through. Find points that, we agree with, we don't agree with. If it's something that you do, you get behind it. They do have a place where you can sign up to keep up with updates. This is something that was presented. This is a document that can be presented to whoever is in office to really begin to have the discussion so we can actually get some solutions. Who that will be, who that forerunner will be. I don't think we're there yet. I think that we're at the state where more and more awareness to pushing for solutions and holding people accountable. I think that's where we are and where we're going. This is something that is pushed to the first 100 days of 2021. So this will be after whoever gets elected gets into office and now saying, hey, here are the things that were discussed prior to you getting in office. Here are the things that we have highlighted, within this document. where can we begin to really make significant change, and in what departments, what area are foreseeable for us to start taking some steps to bring to actually get something out of what you got from us. Dr. Claude Anderson said yesterday, quid pro quo, something for something. Whoever is in office is typically subject to provide for those who helped him get into office. And unfortunately, many of us have helped people get into office, but have not really demanded, commanded, or gotten anything that we have wanted in return. And I would say that many of us may not have wanted anything in return. We just participated in the process. And so I think, as we continue to move forward in life, we begin to see that in this society, there's no such thing as something for nothing. And the more and more we begin to adopt that philosophy, we will begin to hold people accountable to the promises that they made in the beginning, and then the execution of those things as they move forward and they have time to do it. So anyway, this is the Money and Power Show again. This is part 4 of the Ice Cube contract with Black America. I understand that many of us, we're not interested in this stuff, although it impacts us. We discussed judicial and police reform, and some points within that you may see, you might say, we want to go for that. We want to tackle that. And we can all become more involved, and we can all push the envelope in ways that we can, utilizing our vote, voting in, voting out, all that stuff. But who really is an advocate for helping Blacks in America? If you are Black, that should be a concern for you. Not just the lesser of two evils, but who really is establishing an agenda to satisfy some of our needs. Again, I think we got 2 more sections of this. I don't know. This is a long document. I'm just kind of going through it. Then we'll tackle the Trump plan, the Platinum Plan, what he put out, and then what that campaign put out. Then we'll actually tackle the Biden plan, the Lift Every Voice plan. So there are 3 documents, right? So we have the Platinum Plan for Black America by Trump. We have the Lift Every Voice Biden plan by the Biden-Harris party, the Democratic Party. And then we have this, what we're going through now, this contract with Black America that was created by Ice Cube, and he wants to kind of bring it to either one of those parties or both of those parties to try to bring forth some solutions. So anyway, man, I'm your host, ERGJ, certified financial educator. I want to say thanks so much for joining us here today on the Money and Power Show, where we continue to discuss things that matter, that can make a difference in economics and also politics for Blacks in America. I want you guys to remember this, that it takes a village. It starts with us. Let's build as we climb together. We all we got, beautiful people. Matter of fact, we all we need. And thank God that's more than enough. Until next episode, you know what time it is. Mr. DJ hits the music.
The new Black Wall Street. Thanks you for joining the show. We gave a lot of great tips, but it's time to go. Take the knowledge we shared, hope you use it and grow. We will see you all there at the next episode of The New Black Wall Street. The New Black Wall Street.